So the best way I think to tell you all a little bit about what legacy is all about is just to tell you about myself. Um, I lost my parents to addiction when I was young, and at the age of 12 I went to live with my grandfather, and my grandfather took me to the wilderness. He retired in a small town in the wilderness. And so what my life looked like and the healing I experienced from him taking me to the wilderness and fly fishing and skiing and hiking and backpacking was amazing. And what I found, what I came to understand as an adult after that time, is it really wasn't about fly fishing and skiing and backpacking. It was about my grandfather teaching me what it means to be a man and teaching me what honor means and what integrity means. And so at 17, I lost my grandfather. And at that point, I spiraled into a pretty dark place over the next few years and found myself as a 19, 20, 21-year-old man, angry and hurt and wounded and addicted and in a very dark place, and to the point where I got to where I didn't want to live. I knew I didn't want to live the way I was, and I had some kind of hope that life could be different, but really didn't think it could. And so for me, the only answer I had was to retreat back to the wilderness, where I had at one time found some peace. And what happened there for me was an amazing experience. I went to the wilderness all by myself to figure it out or to die trying. And what I came back with was my dignity and my self-esteem and a sense of purpose in life. And it was through that experience that I had. It was a very spiritual experience. It was very personal, very sacred. But it was an experience that changed my life forever. And I was very grateful for a man that taught me that there's a place to do that. And there's a time to do that. And so really that's what legacy is all about. Legacy is about creating a space for men to go that they can be away from their lives in a space and time to be fearless and thorough and to be able to seek out in their lives what it means to be a man and be able to find purpose and find direction. So in my experience, it was a great, powerful experience, but it was also pretty dangerous because I was all alone. So the idea behind legacy is to create a very structured environment with all of the clinical support, all of the physical support, all of the pieces in place to create a space for this to happen. So Legacy is an adventure-based recovery program. We take men into the wilderness for 65 days at a time. They're in the wilderness for the entire time. Every week is a different adventure, whether it's fly fishing, slot canyoning, backcountry skiing. And in each of those adventures, they are getting exposed to new things that help challenge them, help them to see their gifts, help them to find purpose within the group. Each week they have a different assignment in that group or a different role they play. So the process is just really about them being able to have that opportunity to go out there, to get away from their lives, and to be able to take ownership of their lives. So we work with 18 to 35-year-olds. We do take older than 35 depending on a case-to-case basis. We also have a 16 and 17-year-old group. The program is based on a 12-step experience, but it's not a forced 12-step experience. It's a spiritual experience. And what I find over and over again is I have guys come in the door that want the 12 steps and they're hungry for it, and they jump in and they do the 12 steps. I have other guys that come in and they don't want to talk about the 12 steps. They don't want to talk about their family. They don't want to talk about their addiction. They're just angry and they're hurt and they're scared. And when we put them in the wilderness and build a fire and we ask the question, what does it mean to be a man? That's the one thing they lean into. Because at heart, as men, that's what we all want to know. So we want to know what it means to be a man. We want to know if we can actually have what it takes to live up to that. And so helping them to create that space for them to be open to something and to be able to have that experience to think that through. And to figure that out on their own, to be able to separate the messages they've gotten from their family about what it means to be a man, the messages they've gotten from society, from their friends, to be able to step back from all that and look inside themselves and look at something greater than themselves and begin to understand to them what it means to be a man. And to talk about things like honor and integrity and values, what's important in their life, what kind of man they are. So in their time there, each of them develops this vision of the man they want to be. And they have the opportunity to share that with the group and the people around them, their tribe. And as they do that, a powerful thing happens. As they share the vision of the man they want to be, their friends and their tribe begin to hold them accountable. That's a powerful thing that happens. So for instance, if a guy comes in and he suddenly realizes how important honesty is to him, and he hasn't been very honest in his life, but he makes a commitment to that and says, I decided I want to be an honest man, I want to work on that. And then the group supports him around that and makes an agreement to help him to be an honest man. And then a few days later, they're midweek in their adventure and the resupply comes out, and he's the one dividing up the food, and he's over there pocketing the extra hot chocolates from the group. And it's a powerful experience. And it's different than other, I mean, I've been doing this work for a long time, and I've seen a lot of situations with angry addicts and alcoholics getting mad at each other, and I was one of those. But it's a different experience than that. It's not a group of guys being angry at this guy because he's stealing their hot chocolate. It's a group of men coming together and saying, you made a commitment to be a better man, and we're here to help you with that. Let's talk about the hot chocolate. Let's talk about why you're taking the hot chocolate. You know, not just because you like hot chocolate, but let's talk about all the other reasons. And it's that powerful experience that happens within that community. So really what we're all about is not making things happen. It's about creating a space for good things to happen. And there's a power in the wilderness that I believe brings us closer to God. And the reality is for me, and I think this happens for all of us, what we create in our centers is a place for our clients to see themselves through God's eyes. And that's the best way I can describe the power of the wilderness and what it did for me, is it gave me an opportunity to see my own worth as a human being. And I have a lot of gratitude to be able to create a space today to help others experience that same process. So really that's what Legacy is all about. Clinically, we are a very clinically sophisticated program, master's level therapist. Each of our guys have a master's level therapist working with them and a substance abuse counselor that walk through this journey with them. Highly trained wilderness staff that are trained in not only wilderness but also in addiction recovery. Each of our guys gets psychological testing throughout the process. We have a great family program where near the end of the program we bring the families in and they do an adventure with the guys. So, for instance, a lot of it has to do with rappelling and ropes and wilderness experiences, where these guys are actually holding the ropes for their mothers and fathers as their mothers and fathers go down a cliff. Think about the trust there, which is a powerful thing. And again, it happens as it happens. We've had those family adventures come in where a mother is not willing to let her son hold the rope, and it's been 5 hours processing and trust building in smaller things to get to the point where she's willing to get on the rope and allow her son to hold the rope. And when it happens, it's a beautiful thing. It's a powerful thing. So that's what we're all about, and it's who we are. We are not for everyone, obviously. Males only. The physical part of it is demanding. And there is a part of it, I mean, we take some guys that are difficult and tough, but they have to have the ability to, on some level, follow the rules because of the safety of the program. So.
Questions? Yes, go ahead.
35, how many in a group? You take all 35 guys in a group?
Nope, 5 to 8 per group. Generally about 3 groups. We don't want to get any bigger than 3 or 4 groups. We're small, individualized treatment. Those groups are generally like an adolescent 16 to 17-year-old group, more of a hardcore addictions group, and then a group that's more like transition to manhood with some addiction issues, but also just really struggling, moving on in life for whatever reason. So.
How do you deal with someone over 18 that they really want to go A and A?
Yeah. So the nice thing about the wilderness is generally we're so far in the wilderness that if someone decides they want to leave, it takes them 2 days to hike out. and it's a benefit because, as you know, that 12 hours to get them in another mindset, we walk with them. So a therapeutic walk, it's not an angry, you're out of the group, it's a therapeutic walk. We will walk with you for 20 miles to get to that point. In fact, this week, we just had a young man do that all week long on the adventure. He was talking about leaving. We finally talked to him about if you don't want to be here, maybe that's what you need to do to empower him And he walked himself out of the desert on the adventure. We took him to the homeless shelter in Salt Lake City. The family held the boundary. He came back the next morning, and he's invested. I mean, that's the process that probably 20% of our guys go through, and that's when the work starts happening. I mean, they have to get to that point where they know the families are going to hold the boundary, and they're there 100%.
Question?
Yeah, want to give some support to that. The APA Monitor, that's the American Psychological Association monthly magazine, just came out with a whole section dedicated to nature therapy. And it's not just bringing somebody out, you know, and camping, but when you have a therapeutic piece to it, it seems to really have an added piece to we human beings. We connect with nature, and there's something about that that really assists in the therapeutic process. So it's the end of the stage for
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, just to let you guys know, if you're not from out west, you haven't had any experience with wilderness therapy and wilderness program, you can think what you want about them, but until you sleep in the dirt and walk with these men out in the wilderness, you can't possibly understand the power of it. I know some of you have wilderness components and outdoor components. When my nephew, my teenage nephew, needed help growing up and you know, transitioning to manhood, Ray is the first person I call. I am not the only one in this industry who has done that for their own family. And I tell you right now, if and when my son falls too closely in my footsteps, Ray will be the first person I call.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. I appreciate that. Really quick comment. Not to be confused with the boot camp type of model of wilderness, our guys, the thing we believe in is giving them their dignity. So high quality camping gear, the type of adventures that we would do when we go to the wilderness. This is about them being treated with dignity and being introduced into a wilderness environment. So.
I just got a question. In reference to these adventures into the wilderness, all the different things that are described, are they doing 2 or 3 day treks at a time, or is it for so many hours a day and you come back?
5 days at a time.
Oh, 5 days at a
So
time.
5-day adventure and then 2 days of therapy, which is still in the wilderness, but then it's 2 days when they do all of their treatment planning, meet with their therapist, all of that kind of stuff.
Personal question. When your grandpa died, for my own benefit, was he the best friend you'd ever had? Mine too. And when you said that, I just got a chill because he was the only man that ever loved me unconditionally. And my father was alcoholic, so he didn't know how. My grandfather was the one that did that. And God, when he was gone, I was lost. And I got right in that lost state. Glad you survived.